Hey everyone, it's Jasmine and welcome back to my channel. So for the last video of the decade, it's going to be the end of 2019, which I'm kind of ready for. And I know it's just going to be another day tomorrow and we invented time for the sake of it and to organize our lives, but I think it's still cool to celebrate changes and have sort of a point where we can start fresh and try new things and sort of figure out who we want to be. And so for this last video, I wanted to do my last library book haul. I went to the library yesterday and I picked out a bunch of books that I wanted to read going into 2020. These were books either I had an interest in before but never got around to in 2019, or just books that looks interesting in general. And so the first one that I'm reading is The Coldest Girl in Coldtown by Holly Black, and I just finished the Cruel Prince trilogy, and so I really wanted to read more of her work. I tried reading the Modern Fairy Tales trilogy, but haven't quite gotten to there yet. I kept reading like the first chapter, couldn't get into the groove of it. I was just going through a slump, just wasn't interested in reading even though I really wanted to be. And so this book has gotten me out of my slump. I am 112 pages in, and basically every other chapter jumps back and forth between where the character currently is in the storyline, and then it jumps back to like the past and things that she remembers about like her mom, and then certain things. It's a vampire focused story. So basically she goes to a party and she ends up falling asleep in the tub, and while she's asleep in the tub, something happens that night, and then she wakes up and everyone's basically dead and there's vampires. And cold towns are basically isolated cities where vampires are, and that's where they're kind of safe from the bounty hunters. So some of them just forfeit, their freedom, and they live in these cold towns and they get like blood so they can live, and some humans go there to sort of be the supply kind of for the vampires. And it's kind of an interesting semi-post-apocalyptic, because life is still kind of going on as it usually does. It's just got some vampire infestations here and there. So this is going to be a very fun read to finish before the new year. So for the next book that I got from the library, it's called The Memory Thief by Lauren Macy, and the title above it says The Past is a Maze and She is the Key. So I don't really know much about it. It just came out in October. Well, that's when my library got it. But it was published within the past few months. And I'm not really sure much about it except the fact that it's got memories. It looks like it's in a fantasy world, and it's got such a pretty cover. Look at that. It's just, I love anything like brass and silver. I know that's a weird combination, but I don't really like anything gold. I like things that are silver, and brass has kind of got like that old vibe from it. It's like although this is like a golden brass, but it's okay. And on the back it says, it's always a risk to play with memories when you can't help but sink into a sea of others, wishes, hopes, and dreams. But if losing myself means saving my mother, is it worth it? So I like things that play with memory, and my bachelor's was in psychology, so I'm very interested in things that play with the mind, and I think this might be a fun psychological read, and that's kind of why I picked it. I did see it on social media somewhere, but I'm not really sure where, and I'm not really sure if the feedback was positive or not. So I'm kind of going into this half blindfolded, but I think at this point, the slump that I've been in, I think that is the best way to go. So I have heard a lot of good things about Leigh Bardugo, but I was not interested in reading Night House. I know that there's like an adult paranormal supernatural fantasy cult type of book, which usually might have interested me, but I don't like anything involving sorority houses. I really don't like anything college themed. I know that sounds weird, but I don't know. I don't like the college theme. I don't like the sorority house. I don't like frat houses. I don't like that being the main part, and it basically was. And I've heard a lot of negative things about it anyways. So I figured, since I'm not really into adult fantasy too much right now, I'm still kind of in the YA realm, new adult realm kind of fantasy and fiction. So I think I wanted to dive more into her like younger, earlier works. And so the one that I picked up, and I don't think that this is a fairly new book. This one was published 2019, so this is one of the newer books. Did she come out with a bunch of new books? I thought Night House was pretty new, and this is apparently 2019 too. Anyway, so this is King of Scars, and this is the first book in the series for this. I know it's about a boy king, face your demons or feed them. So I've heard a lot of good things about this. It definitely seems like something that I would want to read. It's about like fantasy royalty and magical stuff. It's got magical gifts in it, and I think it would be something that I'm interested in. I know that Reagan read it. I think she read it, or she wants to read it, and she's kind of the one that I follow for most of my kind of book recommendations. And you know, sometimes I read them, sometimes I don't, and I think she's kind of on the right track of things that I would be usually interested in, even though I haven't read some of the books that she's read. It's still the same kind of theme going on. So I'm gonna give this a try. And then the next book that I got is also by Leigh Bardugo, and it is Shadow and Bone, and this is the first book in the Grisha-verse, which is turning into a TV show. So that was kind of my main reason for picking this up, because I also wanted to read the Witcher series, and I watched the first season of The Witcher, and I really liked it, and I just completely blew through the episodes, and then I realized it was books, and I kind of started to kick myself because I really wanted to read the books before I watched the shows, especially, and I usually wasn't that way. I was very much the, oh, I can do either one, it's okay, I don't mind. And then The Magicians came along, and I watched the beginning episodes of The Magicians, and I got to like season 2, realized they were books, blew through 3 and 4, and now I just finished reading the first book of The Magicians, and I can't. Either you watch the shows first and you like the shows and don't like the books, or you read the books first and then you don't like the shows. I feel like that's basically the consensus that I've come to, because there's a lot of mixed reviews about which one's better. And I've kind of, for me, I liked the shows better because that's what I had first versus the books. So those are my thoughts on shows adaptations. And anyway, so the next book that I got is the first book in a duology by Leigh Bardugo, and it is The Crooked Kingdom. And I have been seeing a lot of comparisons about Kaz and different characters from other books and shows. And so I was like, well, I don't really know Kaz. I really need to figure out who Kaz is. I need to figure out who these boys are. It's about a heist of some sort. I've been hearing a lot of good things about this duology. I was really into A Court of Thorns and Roses, and so I think that this would be a good kind of book to pick up. It does seem kind of thick. I love the red sprayed edges, even though this is from the library, and I think it would be fun. I think if I really like this, I know in March I'll be in a better position where I can actually buy my books and sort of set up a TBR instead of constantly checking out books and hoping I get around to reading them. So we'll see. And then the next books that I have, because I really didn't want this to be a very long video, but it is, that's okay, is The Queens of Fenburn and One Dark Throne. And this is part of the 3 Dark Crowns series. And this is by Kendare Blake. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that name. I had picked this up from the library a few months ago, never got around to reading it, and I really like reading the prequels before I go into the books. I already read 3 Dark Crowns, and I kind of liked it. I got halfway through this one, got myself into a slump, and just returned it to the library. And so I kind of want to finish that. Another book that I really wanted to finish was also part of a duology. It was the second book. And I was so excited to get this from the library. And then I read half of it. First, I read like the first 100 pages. Got really mad at it, turned it into the library. Then I got over myself, went back to the library and got it. Read up to half of the book, got mad again and returned it. And now, Shadow and Flame by Mindy Arnett. I am determined to finish this book in January. It made me so mad. I really liked the first book, which is Onyx and Ivory, and I need to finish it. All right, the next book that I also have the prequel to, and the first book is the Red Queen series, and this is by Victoria Aveyard, and I've heard a lot of good. All right, the next book that I really wanted to read is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, and I've heard a lot of good things about this. I know Wayward Son just came out, and people are raving over this book, and I guess I'll give it a go. It doesn't seem like it's a fantasy. It definitely seems like contemporary. It's got a love story. It says ghosts. Maybe it's got a little supernatural, paranormal going on. I believe it is a LGBT book. And it just seems interesting. I'll give it a go. And then Wayward Son's there. So if I really liked it, I can always get Wayward Son because I know my library has it. And it'll be great. And the last book that I picked up from the library seems very interesting. It's by Jill Criswell, and it's called Beasts of the Frozen Sun. And it says, warriors, tyrants, gods, she will stand against them all. And I am very into a book with strong heroines in it. And I definitely get Viking vibes from this. And I love anything that says like the Frozen Sun saga, like very Norse mythology going on there. And so I really like it. And yeah. So I'm very interested to see how this one's going to go. And kind of jump back into sort of Viking mythology vibes going on. So we'll give it a go. And that is going to complete my last library book haul of 2019 and the decade. So I hope you enjoyed. Go ahead and subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I will be back in 2020 with another video.